So your transitions are starting to look good. They're simple, yet functional, and make a huge difference when changing from scene to scene in OBS or Slobs. But I think we can do better. Hi, I'm Mackinac, I'm your graphics guide, and on today's video, we're setting those transitions on fire.
First, I'd like to thank everyone for watching the video. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the video, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you're notified when the next video pops up on charts. Alright, so we sped up through this process. This is basically the same thing we did in the original simple stinger transition video. So this shouldn't be much of a surprise. The only difference is we added an additional background node. So there are 2 merge nodes instead of 1, and we have 3 total media ends. So you have the left slider, a right slider, and the logo object in the front. Once we're complete with that, then we can move on to the fire. Now that we have our transition exactly how we want it, now comes the fun part. Let's set this thing ablaze, shall we? First things first, let's take out that media out. We don't need to be looking at that. We will start with the particle emitters. We'll just put a couple of those down there. We'll have 2 separate particle emitters. We'll need 2 different renderers. And we'll need turbulence for both of them. That's not on the hotkey up there, so we'll just put it this way. Turbulence there. And another one. Where you at, tools? Particle, turbulence, another one there. All right, so this will same way up here. We'll have to do 2 merge nodes to make it work proper, like there and then there, and that will actually merge over with this. Then that merges out there. So we'll just get to that later. Okay. So let's do this one first and work with this, and we don't need that in 3D. We will change that to render 2D. And what we're looking for this one is we're gonna change this particle emitter from round to a rectangle, take the width all the way out, and see how those particles are like kind of spread out now all the way down there. We'll get to setting that off down here in a minute once I get this all squared away here. But this particular particle set will be in the foreground, so this will be the just the emission of particles moving up, and it'll look like embers is what we're going for. So we're gonna go with a small number here, probably about 1.6 with the number of variance, maybe 2.4 lifespan, 100. We may go a little bit more than that, maybe 200, 205 is fine. Velocity, we're going to change that to about a 0.8. Variance of velocity, 0.16. And we want to change the angle to 90. That's going to go up. And I do believe we need to change the style to blob. That way we can change the size of the actual particles. And we're going to go up. There we go. Now we're getting some variances. Keep that small. Size to velocity up, and z-scale sizing, let's just go with, that's fine, 362. I do want to change the color, and I don't like to keep it one specific color. So if I'm going to go with like an orange here, kind of that nice little glow that you're seeing right there, I want to make sure I have color variance through the entire process to kind of give it that real good look. So we'll do about a 0.1 each side. I think would be plenty. I think that should be a -1, shouldn't it? It should. And then same thing over here. This should be a -0.1 and a 0.1. Now we have a variance there of coloring. It's just enough. You can see a slight differentiation between the particles that are emitting there. So as we play through this process, you can see we do have some that are going downward. I don't like that, so maybe we could change the turbulence a little bit, and we'll change the 1.5. Same thing, 1.5, 0.5. Let's see how that works. All right, that does kind of go up a little bit more, but I don't think the actual, let me stop this frame here. I don't think the actual positioning is moving all the way up but it's okay. As long as we have enough moving up, we'll be fine, because the rest of the bottom stuff's not going to be seen. So how that's going to look, actually what we need to do is give it a little bit of blur. No way, that's too much blur. Glow. How's that? That looks good. All right. So let's check that one more time. It's a little slow because of the render. Once it passes through the render, it'll be good. But we need to change this and pull it all the way down. So we're going to pull it down here. Right about there. Yep, that looks decent. We got enough movement out of that. We could probably do a little bit more turbulence, I think. That'll probably help out. So X is up, so let's give us a 2 there. See what that looks like. That working? Yes. Looks good. It's a little bit better. Give some Y in there. And then a little more Z. Play. That doesn't look bad. We can deal with that. That's good. All right. As that renders through, there's the actual. All right. It's a little fast. A little fast. Let's change that up. The velocity variance. 0.8. I think that'll work out. Okay, good. So now that we have the foreground set with the particle emissions, we'll set that there like so. And then we'll do this one here like that. And I want to set that similar to that because we're going to be looking at this. So that shows the particles rendering. Good. All right, this one is the fire. This is what the it's going to mimic fire. And it's basically exactly the same you got here. Less velocity, more particles, and more blur in 3D. So how that's going to look is like this. We'll change that point style. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to change that region to rectangle once again. Change that over to width side this way like this. We will change the number of particles up all the way. Hang on a second here. The reason why we're not seeing it is because we're not looking at it. There they are right there. All right. Change the lifespan to these to pretty high. Let's do the variance at about 22. That'll work. And we'll change that velocity to a 90 degree with a good velocity of maybe 0.8 and a 0.16 there. So how's that looking? Okay, it's getting better. Let's change that point style to blob once again. Change the color palette over to that orange that we liked. Probably a little bit darker on this one. Yeah, that'll work there. We'll do the color variance, -0.1. Sorry, -0.1, 2.1, -0.1, 2.1. It gives us that nice little variance just in the right color there. You can't really tell. We'll keep the velocity exactly where it's at. We'll go to render and we'll turn the blob. Oh, you know what? Did I do the size? Hang on a second here. I don't think I did the size, did I? No, I didn't. All right, change the size. See, that's bigger. Size variance, maybe. Size to velocity and Z-scale size. Good. All right, so now we have a bigger size there. We can go to render and we're gonna make that blob really look like fire. We're gonna give that a nice glow. Change that blob a little bit more. Right about there looks good. Let's play that. Not terrible. Let's see what that looks like down. When we push that down here, let's see if we can get it down here. That doesn't look bad. It's following the same render path. You can see the glow just slightly there. I think that's too orange. Well, it might be alright with that background. We'll see what that's gonna look like. But We want this to be able to fade in and fade out with the transition as we go along. We'll work that part here in a minute. That looks good. I like it. All right, cool. So from this point, we're basically going to have to set this to the foreground. So that's going to be green. And this is going to be yellow. And then we're going to go out to this one. And now I should see everything here. Look at that. And see what I'm talking about? You'll start seeing the fire right there at 15. We don't necessarily want the fire to start at 15. I would prefer the fire to start at 20. So the way we're going to work that out is we need to do a mask. And we will set that mask up just like so. So this rectangle here is our mask for this guy here. And this guy here. All right, so now you can't see that because we need to go all the way over and then all the way up. And now you'll be able to see it, give you a better picture of what that's going to look like. So if I took the height, see how that disappears? All right, so we're going to keep that through the whole entire process, but I don't want this to show up till about right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition. Where does the axe come into play here? Hang on, let me see. I think the first revolution's right there. That's good enough. All right, so 30. Let's do 20 to 30 fade in. So from here, we'll do a level 1. And at 20, we will do a level 0. So that'll start the flame. And let's get over to about 85 is when it starts to fade away, with the 100 to be close. So at 100, we want that to be a 0, and I'm going to want the 90 to be the 1, and then 100 to be 0. So that now looks like this. Let that render out. And I think that looks good. So the door is closing. The door turned out really well. And all these things are just, again, as a reminder, will be down in links in the description for some Google Docs. That way you guys have access to all these files. You'll have the project file for DaVinci Resolve, as well as the graphics files for the actual transition itself. So really the next thing we got to do is add some sound, right? That's how it usually works. All right, I do believe I have some sound files here. We got a crackling file and an axe throw. I had a medieval battle, but it doesn't actually look good, or it doesn't sound good, sorry, in the actual composition itself. I want to just get the fire rolling right about the time frame of when the fire starts. I'm gonna move this out of the way real quick, and it should start right here is when I want the fire to really start. So I'm gonna take that and just kind of clip that in, and it should be right there. Let's see. We'll just fade that out, actually. We'll make it easier. About 15. So how's that's gonna sound? A little crazy. I mean, it's not the best fire, but it'll work, right? We gotta normalize that a little bit. It's a little loud. There we go. Alright, now we gotta fade that in. To have it to be just quiet like that, just awful. Alright, so we'll fade that in. Bring that in slightly there. And then just bring that out. There we go. How's that? Let's see. Too loud. I want the axe to be thrown more. So we'll normalize that volume a little bit more down to about I think a 12. Alright, that'll work. And now we gotta do the axe throw itself. And I know this looks like a really ridiculously long file, but I promise it's not a problem. So let's see where that's at. Alright, cut that. Hang on. Let me move this over. Right there. I'm gonna cut that piece there. And then we'll get rid of the rest of this tail here. Delete this section. Where are you at? Delete selected. Perfect. So that's gonna give us our file. I mean, I think that's still loud, so we're gonna go ahead and normalize that to a 9. And let's try that. That works. Beautiful. All right, so that's basically our transition. And as easy as the first one went around when we did the simple stinger transition, this transition just added a little bit of more effect to it. I think the next one we're going to go ahead and add the glitch transition. I know a lot of people are into that now, but I wanted to get this one done because I was getting a lot of questions about adding like fire or some element like maybe lightning, and I went with fire because it's a little bit easier with the particles, but that's how it is. And as always, to add that stinger transition, we got to make sure we change this from a movie under the render tab. Well, before we do that, hang on. Got to make sure I send this all to a new compound clip. Create compound clip. There we go. Now we're all set. And then we can go over to the render tab, set that to quick time, individual clip, change that to the GoPro Cineform, RGB, and export alpha. We want that to be about medium quality. That's not too hard. Add that in there. We're gonna go ahead and select our folder, YouTube graphics, and we'll label this. We'll just add it in here. Well, select this folder. Select and name this. Where's the name? Where's the name? And this will be, let's call it Viking transition. Because it's a axe. Sure, we'll go with that. Okay, so now we have clean that. Add queue, Viking transition, start the render. So once this renders out to a movie, it'll be a pretty big file to actually put onto OBS or Slob. So you want to go ahead and change that over to a WebM file using one of the free online converters. The WebM file will make it drastically smaller of a file size to make it easier for the stinger transition to play in your OBS or Slobs without eating your CPU. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's video. I do appreciate you all for hanging out and taking a look at this, taking time to check it out. Hope it's very helpful for you guys. And as always, you will find links in the description for all of this material for you guys to use. All my artwork that I post on YouTube is free for you guys to use. So have at it. All I require from you guys is something that you can do for free. A little subscription, a little like goes a long way. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you on the next video. Oh, how did I get that on the first go? Oh, that's movie magic, babies. All right. Just say babies? What's weird?